My name is Frank Shepard. I'd like to take a few minutes today to talk to you about intelligent infrastructure and the role it plays in helping IT teams shift from operations to innovation. One of the things that we hear consistently when we speak with our customers is that the operational burden, the responsibilities to keep users connected, to keep applications running, to keep security under control, those things are growing every year, meaning that there's less time to spend on innovation, collaboration with lines of business. And it's unfortunate because innovation, of course, is the lifeblood of any organization. It drives competitiveness and hopefully revenue as well. I want to take just a minute to talk about the concept of operational burden in terms of something that we're all familiar with. Let's take just a simple road trip. If we're in a car 25 years ago and we have a map on our lap and we're driving across the country, the car does nothing. It won't turn on its own. It won't stop and start on its own. The driver is responsible for all the operations. If we get a late 90s and we get into a GPS unit, it makes it easier. We don't have to read the map. It will narrate directions to us. It will navigate for us. It takes some of the burden off. The car still doesn't really contribute to the driving experience though. Cut to the late 2000s and now things like Waze come online. And so we've got machine learning in the cloud taking telemetry from all of the users who are using Waze and now providing optimized routing. So again, the experience begins to get even better for the user. The car still not doing a whole lot though in this case. We can then cut to 5 years after that. Somewhere in the last 5 years, we see lane assist or active collision avoidance, active cruise control, things that are obeying laws. Stay between the lines. Don't crash into the bumper of the car in front of you. Those sort of simple rules are starting to actually make their way into most cars, into many cars today. And it has an even more dramatic impact on the feel, the operational burden of the driver. So the car is now actually starting to do some things on behalf of the drivers, taking some of that load off of them. But at this level where you actually put machine learning inside of the vehicle itself, it becomes something of an appliance. So you take Tesla, and local and state laws notwithstanding, the car knows to change lanes when there's slower traffic in front of you. It knows to take the exit. It knows to turn left on Main Street. So for all intents and purposes, the operational burden is now shifted dramatically in favor of the automobile and away from the user. Now we're talking about taking significant amount of cognitive load and operational burden off of the driver, freeing them up to do higher order things on their drive across the country. So let's apply this to IT. Let's take it back, come back into IT. So if we take a regular old stack of hardware, it requires care and feeding. It requires hand holding, and we've got to keep an eye on it. We've got to make sure it's running optimally. There are lots of monitoring platforms out there. Splunk is huge and is incredibly effective. It takes some of that burden off of IT. It eases the operational burden a little bit, but the hardware is not necessarily doing anything at this point. AI ops is a huge buzzword right now. And so if we have machine learning platforms that are applied to our hardware, they can still further relieve operations of that operational burden. It's tightly coupled with what we could call rules-based automation, where the hardware begins to obey rules. We can set thresholds, we can set boundary conditions and say, if this is happening, then do this. It's much akin to if the cars in front of you are braking, then slow down. But then there's this missing inflection point. Now, how do you get to that inflection point that's much like the Tesla of the data center, right? So to bake ML into the hardware itself to create an appliance that has intelligence in it, that is where the operational burden shifts dramatically in favor of the hardware itself and off of the staff, freeing them up to do higher order things. And this is where innovation can come back in. So as a category, we would refer to this as something like infrastructure intelligence. It's really helpful. You've got ML up in the cloud, like digesting tons and tons of data. You've got rules-based automation here and there, making tweaks to the environment. It's not unhelpful. It's not optimal though. And so to move into something that the industry would refer to as intelligent infrastructure, we're talking about the hardware with the machine learning baked in so that the telemetry, the visibility, the learning models, and the adaptability, the responsiveness, the remediation of those conditions can all happen local to the platform it matters on most. So if this is a storage platform, you're looking at the things we store, virtual machines, databases. You can then see patterns of behavior on a virtual machine and database and application level. And then you can respond to those applications and databases and virtual machines in real time, dynamically, and adjust very gracefully to changing conditions. So if we say, this is the state of IT today, we have all this operational burden and very little innovation, the introduction of intelligent infrastructure is really the key to flipping and creating an inflection point where innovation can now take a front seat and be the lion's share of where IT teams are spending their time, relieving them of a lot of that operational burden and freeing them up to drive revenue, drive innovation, and drive competitive advantage for their organizations. If you'd like to learn more about how the Tintri VM Store plays this role and all the things that it offsets from an operational burden standpoint, we'd love to have that conversation with you. We're also happy to put you in touch with any of our customers who can probably tell that story even better than we can. They can give you real world examples of exactly what kind of a difference the VM Store has made in their environment. We look forward to talking to you. Thank you.